Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Kaiju Kingdom podcast, the podcast about all things giant monsters and their ilk. We are your hosts,
Jessica! Hi, everybody!
and I am Chris Eaton. If you listened to our last podcast, we went knee deep, like deep south deep into the Pacific Rim DVD, more aptly the Blu-ray. And it was so much that we had to divide into two episodes. It was like that cliffhanger episode where, like on Mr. Belvedere, if you didn't know that Wesley got into that accident, you didn't know what was going to happen. So, this episode, we are going to actually talk about the main disc, the one with the movie, the commentary, and the actual specials, extras they have put on that. That's how jam-packed this DVD is. Jessica has about a phone book's worth of notes that she wants to go through. And once again, I will be commenting on the side because I'm just kind of lazy like that. And Jessica is a far more hardworking person than I am. So, with that, let's get into it. Jessica.
Okay, so I figured, though this is the Blu-ray, right? The Blu-ray DVD, for those who are confused. I mean, I haven't seen the regular DVD, so I don't know what's on there. I would like to think that they have almost all the same things. But we will see. So at the time, they had two parts. They didn't really have much on the I would say special feature section of the Blu-ray, the actual movie DVD. They had focus points, audio, commentary, and like something else. I don't think it was even that important. But I know you, Chris, you did the commentary.
Yes.
So you sat through all 2 hours of the commentary.
Yes, like I do with any Guillermo del Toro DVD.
Is it just Del Toro this time?
It is just Del Toro, which, okay. As I told you, I think last time, like off-air, before we sat down, because you didn't even realize, because you had spent hours. Okay, hold on. Let's backtrack for a second so we can give the people a little insight to this story. When we were going to sit down and record the last podcast, I had gone through the DVD and, watched the commentary and watched the extras, and I was like, where the hell are the bloopers and all this? And then you're telling me all this stuff you're seeing. I'm just like, oh, did I buy the wrong disc? Because I know there's like 500 versions of this disc out, and I bought mine at Costco. So I thought I had gotten like the nice 2-disc edition. I'm just like, I'm looking, I'm like, no, there's the standard DVD. What am I missing? And we're like an hour away from recording, and then Jessica comes online. She's like, you do know there are like 2 Blu-rays, right? I'm like, I only got the one. She's like, really? She's like, look again. And lo and behold, I open up the disc, and staring right at me is the second Blu-ray, which they put underneath the main disc. So, yes, to my dismay, I saw that I had been had by my own by my own idiocy.
You know what? It's okay, because I put 2 DVDs into the PS3, and it wasn't playing, and my frustration, and then I hit eject, and 2 discs came out, and I was like, oh no!
Yes.
Like, yeah, it was like the DVD on top and like the special features on the bottom, and I was like, oh, crud. No, by the time you and I had spoken, I think I spent 6 to 7 hours going through everything.
Yeah, you went deep. You went very deep. Like, I had to start doing like the Cliff Notes version for the last podcast. I'm just like, okay, we got this, okay, good. Okay, Jessica will cover the rest of this.
Yeah, and so when you were just like, oh no, I went through the commentary, I was like, I love you, Pac-Rim, but I can't go through another 2 hours because I'm going to fall asleep on the couch. But also, I don't write as quickly as he speaks. Even so, what I do is I pause and write notes. Pause and write notes.
Which makes...
So if you think about it, a 2-hour commentary is going to take me about 11 hours.
Yeah. So, and me, I just make mental notes of like bigger portions, because a lot of it is stuff he's already touched upon in like interviews promoting the film and stuff. So, I mean, there was insight to a lot of other things that ironically were also covered in the special features of the DVD as well. But,
right.
But the main perks of having a Guillermo del Toro DVD is listening to Guillermo del Toro talk. I still hold the Blade 2 Special Edition as one of the best commentary tracks. A, kind of put down on film, and B, the best one he's done yet. Because he's just so lively in it. he talks about how he compares the Reapers to lemmings because they just keep coming at Blade and stuff like that, and just with his accent, it just kind of sounds adorable.
He's very funny. He's
Yes.
really smart and he's funny. He's not like some commentaries are like super boring, really straightforward. I went to a Doctor Who commentary for like one of the first episodes at Gallifrey 1 and I didn't really expect much out of it. But the director sat on the floor, but he was like pointing up with like a laser pointer up to the projector. He himself is the reason why it was entertaining. He goes, "Oh, you see this part right here? Yeah, I fell. Right there. You see my hand? That's the shadow of my hand."
Yeah.
And he was giving like really small notes and they were like really subtle. It was the first episode of Let's Kill Hitler. And there's a part where like, you see where River Song rubs up against Matt Smith? The reason why he's covering is real subtle. It's not for you kids. Now kids kids were like covering their ears. He goes, "This is where the doctor has a boner, right there." And it was things that I would have never have thought of or did it. But he made the episode more entertaining.
Oh yeah.
But some commentaries are just like, no, I can't do 2 hours of you talking over my movie.
Oh, it's like the most ironic thing about the Avengers commentary was Whedon's. Normally he's kind of a lively guy, but if you really ever listen to him talk, he's a low talker. Like he's very, we're talking about this part right here, and there's a shot of Scarlet doing this. Like he talks that way the whole time, and he's trying to keep it lively. But the thing is that he's just talking to himself. Robert Rodriguez does a lot of the same thing too. I mean, I love listening to his commentaries because he's super detailed with how he shot things. Like he's like, "Oh, see here, like you can do this at home. All you just need is like this software that's like $800 and you can do this." But when you don't have someone to work off of, it midway through, people start losing their focus, and that's part of the problem because you got to realize they're. Even though these people have made these films and, they spent hours and hours on them, they're still watching this stuff as they're commentating on it, and they're watching it without sound, too. So they're kind of like, okay, I think this part's coming. Hold on a second. Yeah, they get caught up watching it. And that's why I always like Kevin Smith's commentaries, because he usually brings half the cast in and he sits down and they bullshit about the movie, and they'll give out stories and they'll give out other little things, and they keep it lively and keep it interesting. With Del Toro this time, it was he was very matter of fact about it. Like he wasn't it wasn't as much of as lively as he normally is. And I think part of it was just usually these tracks are recorded like right after the movie's open, and when you have that, when a movie doesn't kind of meet the expectations that you're hoping it would, it kind of is kind of brings the soul down a little bit. So he sounded a little disheartened by certain maybe certain aspects of the film, but he kept it professional, and it was very much like, okay, this scene. We have the girl it was the drift sequence, and we have young Mako here, and she's holding the shoe. The shoe, she represents her heart, and they got running. Then here comes the big crab monster, blah blah blah. And that stuff, and he's pointing out, it's like, oh yeah, all these sets was practical because I love doing practical as much as possible. It was a lot of that.
Was there anything that stood out to you, or was particularly funny?
Not so much, because a lot of it is just it's more on the kin like his Blade 2 commentary, where he actually starts kind of waxing poetic about a lot of aspects, about the deeper meanings to like a lot of the stuff. Again, like the shoe represents the heart. When he's like, that's part of the reason when they're when Raleigh and Mako are sitting watching Gypsy's chest being opened up and they're working on the core. It's like that's the point that all three of their hearts are open to each other and they all become one. A lot of the deeper meaning stuff like that, where you wouldn't have, if you're not really super paying attention to the movie, you wouldn't have picked up on the subtlety of such things.
Right.
But then again, they go back and talk about it in a lot of the extra features too. So, I mean, a lot of it was because I listened to that first before I went back and watched the special features. That there was a bit of a retread at a lot of points.
Right. No, I understand what you mean. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think a lot, because there's only so much they can talk about, but they're just like, No, I need you to fill up a whole disc worth of
Yeah.
stuff.
Like, I honestly thought it would have been fine if they had, like, Travis sit in with him, and then they could talk about, the two of them putting the movie together. Like, okay, this was my original concept. Here's where Guillermo came in, and Guillermo could talk about, okay, this was my contribution, and, I thought we should do this instead of this, that kind of thing.
Yes, I like your Del Toro expressions.
Look, he was the second director I ever met, and he won me over because I met him at the LA Comic Convention when he was promoting Blade. He floored the shit out of me, which is how funny and how kind of like open he was, and his accent is what part of the thing that reels you in with him, because it's not like a true Spanish accent. It's got like a weird tinge to it. It's almost like I call it Mexican Cockney, if you will. Because we live in California, so we live in a largely Hispanic population. So you hear like a lot of Hispanic accents, and they don't sound anything like his. Like his is there's a ton of proper English in it, but he still has the Mexican tinge to it. But it's like when you listen, it's because I put it as it's how Edgar Wright talks, because Edgar Wright has almost like a Cockneyed accent to him a bit too. Like he doesn't sound like when you're listening to like Jason Statham or someone else British talk. They got that very proper English. Like Edgar Wright has like a weird kind of like almost again, it's Cockneyed. It's if you listen to oh god, what's the movie? Blanking right now because I'm putting on the spot. The orphan kid hooks up with the tramps. They start stealing stuff. I don't know. You can look it up later. It'll hit me like midway through this podcast, and I'll scream it out. And
You should do that.
But anyway, yes, back to Del Toro. Yeah, so he has like this love. He has an accent that is just. Every time I talk about him or say his name, I have to say it the way he pronounces it, because when he comes, I was like, "Hello, my name is Guillermo del Toro." That's the way he pronounces it, and that's how it's in my head. So I have to say it every time like that. So
Yes, it's like me in certain Asian foods. Like I can't say it the Americanized way. I have to say it the way I was raised to say.
such as,
Like huntun is Cantonese for it's wonton. So it's just like, and then I know in American they call it mandu or something, but it's manto, which is like a kind of a soft bread type of little. It's like a little bread roll that
Yeah.
you can eat with, and certain words like that I can't do. And then you slip into this weird accent because then you say it the way that you would say it.
exactly.
So yeah, no, but I cannot do accents, so I'm gonna leave that up to you. I can't do. I will just make him suddenly Japanese for some reason, and be confused why. And I'm not even Japanese, so there might be a Japanese Del Toro in the future.
It's sadly a horrible trait I get from my grandfather, who I don't think he realizes he does it when he's talking to people. But he's 86 years old. But growing up with him, every time he talked to anybody with like an accent, he inadvertently did like the most racist imitation of them back. But the thing was, the people never picked up on it. Like, it was especially funny when he talks to like Vietnamese folks. Like when we would get to like electronic stores around here, and they're run by Vietnamese, and they would speak with like a very thick accent, because English is clearly their second language. They'd be like, "Oh, how can I help you?" My grandfather was like, "Oh, you can help me with remote. You help me with remote." I'm like, this is hilarious and terrible on so many levels, but I'm just gonna watch and see where this goes.
You should do a little web series like Unintentional Racist Grandpa.
Oh,
It's like URG.
I'm going to write a book one day about my grandparents. It's just it's a whole experience unto itself. They are truly the last of a generation.
But so how was it listening to 2 hours of Del Toro's commentary and accent? Was it lulling?
No, it wasn't lulling. It was what it was. It was and again, it's worth a listen. A repeated listen, I don't know. Maybe one day if I'm bored and I go back. I do listen to his Hellboy commentary a bit, just because he's very kind of enthusiastic about that one. Hellboy 2, not so much. And I haven't listened to the commentary. Like, there's the Criterion versions of Kronos and Devil's Backbone. I haven't listened to those yet, so I'm very curious to listen to those and see if he's got the same reservedness or a little more kind of like the giddy 9-year-old Guillermo del Toro that comes out.
Yes, I kind of wish he also had Idris Elba on there.
Oh man,
Yes,
I
and
would love that.
he would have his sweet accent, and
He would.
he'd be like, "See right here, I look like I'm angry.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually having the best day." Like
Just
that would
Idris
be.
Alba. I don't. There's like that man just oozes charisma. Like I would be very like if they're like, hey, we're gonna turn Captain America black. I'm like, as long as Elba is him, I have no problem with it.
Yes, there's fan posters of him as Jon Stewart.
I am totally down for that. I am super down for him being Jon Stewart. I'm for Idris Elba being just about anything. If they had gone in the super just off the wall, super Japanese direction with this movie, where Idris Elba gets, he dies inside of a Jaeger, but a celestial being comes and forges its life force with him, and literally Idris Elba, like it's Idris Elba inside like a rubber costume fighting kaiju. I would have told. I guarantee that movie would have made $800 billion worldwide, and Idris Elba would have been offered 4 Oscars by now.
Dude, it was so funny. Like toward the end,
Mm-hmm.
where my friend later on we came out,
Mm-hmm.
and my friend was like, "Okay." So toward the end of the movie, when they're going to the actual Pacific Rim, I go, "Right, the trench." He goes,
Mm-hmm.
"There was a moment where I thought all 4 people were gonna die." I went like, "Yeah, me too." He goes, "But the greatest tragedy is when I realized Idris Elba will not be in Pac Rim 2."
Mm-hmm.
And then that's like, he was like,
They can always go into flashbacks. That's the beauty of the way that they did the story. With the God, there was like, was it a 15 years in between the beginning and the end of the war? So
yeah, it was like 12, 15 years.
yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of ground that they didn't cover that they can always go back and have more Idris Elba in. That's why I'm down if they. Legendary would be stupid if they just let this property kind of lapse. If anything, it could be turned into a web series. If they don't capitalize on a movie, they could capitalize on a web series. They could capitalize on an anime. They could capitalize on a bunch of different mediums that they could keep this, because there is a bazillion stories in it. The way Travis Beachman kind of laid it out. I mean, just the different runs with the different, the fights between the different kaiju and Jaegers, just all that. I mean, we get a glimpse of Idris Elba's backstory in the main comic, The Tales from Year Zero, and there's like so much that has not been done yet. So
I know. I mean, I don't know if a web series will be beneath Elba,
Mm-hmm.
but it would be awesome to do like a Pac Rim,
Mm-hmm.
mini webisodes or whatever with him in it.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact is, again, not sadly stereotypically,
Mm-hmm.
racial comment, due to his actual ethnicity, not nationality, people. That's different. Ethnicity. He doesn't age as rapidly as certain people would.
As we
So-
call it in the white community, black don't crack, and it doesn't. No. Well, it's like you want to go on that thing. Look, the Asian population does not age until they look about 35 to 40 until they're 83, and then whatever magic spells on them wears off, and then they automatically become that age that they actually are.
Yes, and then they're like little, tiny, and all
Mm-hmm.
little Asian women have like curly hair, like real short kind of curly
Mm-hmm.
hair, with their big glasses.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I was thinking like even in Mako's flashback,
Mm-hmm.
Idris, when he got out of the Jaeger,
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking, okay, how are they gonna make him look younger? He basically looked
They
exactly the same,
said, fuck it.
but then his hair
Mm-hmm.
just has a tiny more of a faux hawk going
Yeah.
on. But other than that, he looks exactly
Exactly the same. And he's like in his 40s now, isn't he?
He just turned 40.
Ah, man. Yeah, he's due for an Oscar very soon.
He is, and I love his extended scenes in Thor 2.
Oh, he was awesome in Thor 2. Oh, I love
So-
him. He's
yeah,
running
so
up
he
there like
should-
a badass.
He did.
Taking out a ship on his own.
Yeah. He was just like, oh, sure, I'd do it.
Mhm.
But I think had Thor 2's commentary isn't out yet, but to follow the don't make the same mistake or choices that Pac Rim did have Idris Elba in commentary.
Exactly. Just have him it's like, yes, I know I was only in about 40 minutes, 20 minutes of this film, but they asked me just to add load my sultry voice to it.
Yes.
My horrible Idris Elba impersonation. I can't, it's the British, it's hard to get down. But he can.
Australian, I know it's really hard.
Australian's hard, but it's once you get it down, it's down. But yeah, British, like especially like because he's very well spoken too, from what I've seen. Like he's a guy that's the full package. You don't want to fuck with. Like you just like if I see Idris Elba coming down, it's like he's like a. I would compare it to him like if in modern day, like he would be a modern day black Sherlock Holmes. But he could legitimately beat the shit out of me without having to set up any sort of like details. Like, okay, I'm going to go for the, he's going to throw a right, I will block, hit a left. He's like, no, I'm just going to grab this fucker and knee him in the face.
Kind of like in Luther,
yes.
actually.
I need to sit down and watch that. I've been meaning to. That's what I'm going to do after this one. Sit down and watch Luther finally.
Luther is good. Idris Elba's the type of man who walks down the street and you cross the street to the other side because you don't want Elba in your face. But no, now I thought about it, he would have been great for the commentary.
He would have added a regalness to it that is missing.
And Charlie Day.
Charlie Day is another fail that they didn't get him on there because if anything, him and Del Toro would have just been, he would be like, oh well, Guillermo, what's going on here? Oh, this, it would have been just. It would have been an oral O-U-R-A-L. I think that's how it is. Not oral, like listening.
Right.
Just an oral massage on the ears.
Yes, you know what? Actually, in the scene where when Newt, Charlie, ends up coming out of his first drift with the kaiju, and then Idris Elba comes and, Stacker Pentecost sits down and is like listening to him talk and turns around and ends up telling Hermes to shut up. I was thinking, this is really good acting, that's great, but I wonder if both actors actually get along in real life. Like, I was like,
Like, if Idris Elba's too much, like, he doesn't take any of Charlie Day's shit. Like, he's like, look, we're here doing a job. I don't want any of your goddamn tomfoolery fucking up my work, all right?
But but every acceptance speech or announcement speech that he's given at like the BAFTAs, for those who don't know, the UK version of like the Oscars or any like kind of awards he's a presenter, he's very quirky. He's weird. Idris Elba's really weird, but in the good way, not in the creepy bad way, but in kind of a weird, quirky, good way. So I thought that was outside of character. But like, no, I wish there was more that they touched upon him a little bit more on the focus points, which was part of the special features, which is the part that I went through and took a bunch of notes.
All right.
As you guys know, it's not the commentary part. I took the notes in.
So that's where I'm going to hand the baton to you.
Yes, I know that you saw the focus points also, though.
I did, but I did not take as dedicated notes as you because I'm lazy.
You were calling me hardworking, but I was thinking maybe Chris is actually the smart one. Chris is the smart one where he can just remember things and not, kill trees and ink.
Well, again,
by just taking down notes.
This is the same thing I have when I yell at people online when they write these articles. It's like, well, 5 things that sucked about Iron Man 3. I don't get why, the Mandarin was doing this. I don't get his... I'm like... You didn't pay attention to the damn movie. That's why you're complaining about these things you don't understand, because clearly you looked down at your phone or you just weren't watching what was up on the 60-foot screen in front of you. I pay attention. That's what I do. So that's, and I have a decent memory about certain things. It's just you put me on the spot and then I start blanking. That's my problem. But if you give me, you let everything flow right, and it's like, okay, yeah, I know that happened there and this happened there. That's exactly what happened. So that again, but that's also part of it is I'm just lazy. I don't want to jot things down.
It's not too bad. One of the first focus points was the world of Guillermo del Toro. And it just basically kind of goes through like how he thinks, his process, kind of, what the world of del Toro is, which I think is actually pretty straightforward. So I actually didn't have a lot of notes on that. I guess if you're a fan of his movies or you watch his movies, you will pretty much understand mentally how this man works. Still an enigma in certain ways, but you kind of understand a little bit more. The next one that they did... I'm sorry, what?
On that note, do you think if we lived in a society like Japan, that by now, much like you know how Japan puts together, like... Because they make huge homages to their to the great like manga artists and other creators. Like
Yep.
Miyazaki's got like his own theme park over there. Do you think by now, if we had that kind of like thinking here, we would have had a Guillermo del Toro like kind of like mini theme park by now?
It does. I do think so. Actually, it was really funny. There's a store here in Burbank called Creature Features, which I was obviously telling Chris earlier, kind of off the books. And each display case has like, silent horror or like vampires or, wacky television, like each just a kaiju, Godzilla, superheroes. There's a display case that says to the world of Tim Burton. So it has like all these, really wonderful, like Nightmare Before Christmas, Corpse Bride, all this stuff. And this guy was checking prices because this Saturday was their grand opening, and people were like, "Oh, how much for this Nightmare Before Christmas?" And I was like, "You know, actually, what you guys need?" And one of the workers turned around. He's like, "Yeah," and he's like, "I go, you need a display case, which is Del Toro's display case, which is just like the world of his stuff." And the guy was like, "You know what? I think I need to tell my boss that. That's actually a really good idea."
After he got up off the ground, it's like, you just hit me with an idea that I should have thought of on my own, but now I'm ashamed. You have shamed me, young woman.
No, but I was thinking, because they have a Tim Burton section. I mean, I'm sure it's a creature feature, so I don't think Tarantino himself will have, like, an actual display case. I'm thinking, I mean, they had a couple of Neil Gaiman stuff, but Del Toro should be on there
definitely.
in a creature feature shop.
Definitely. But like, he would, there's the Burton, there's Del Toro, you'd have a Hammer section, the Universal Monster section. It'd be like that.
Yes, Hammer Films. So, I mean, yeah, but to go back, yeah, I mean, I think if America or Mexico took to Del Toro the way certain countries did, we would have a theme park, which, let's mind you, kids, it would be a terrifying theme park.
It would be a delightfully terrifying theme park, though. I don't see it being the size of like a Disneyland. I see it being like the size of like a really awesome like Midwest like super miniature golf course where they have like those giant like go-kart tracks and stuff like that. It's on a decent piece of property, and then you have like, you can go into the Pan's Labyrinth tunnel and be attacked by a turtle monster, and then you walk through the Pale Male's diner room, where it's actually a snack bar where you can buy shit from a guy in a Pale Male outfit who just hates his life because he's in this costume every day selling you food. You could go on the Jaeger simulator.
That would be awesome. I mean, unfortunately, I think a ride would have to look more like an actual Jaeger because we're all different sizes and we can actually fit into a pilot suit.
Well, no, what you do, you make it a simulator, kind of like in like a Transformers ride kind of thing, where you're in like a just a little box. It's like seats like 4 people. You kind of sit a little bit. And they let you move around so much, but you pretty much it's set kind of like Star Tours.
Right. Oh no, yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking how awesome would it be to actually put on the suit and everything, but I was like, nope, there's like 18 different body types,
yeah.
so that's not gonna work. But no, like we are building money for Del Toro right now.
Pretty much, it's just like here. Just, when we're done, it's like, here, let's go pitch this to someone. I'm pretty sure you can find somebody somewhere that'll do this. If anything, a traveling roadshow would be pretty awesome. If they could do it if they could do it for Batman, which they did when Dark Knight Rises came out last year on DVD, they can do it for Del Toro.
Right. No, that makes sense. Actually, that makes a lot of sense.
You base it around the convention circuit. Like, you make it half like the Wizard World tour, and then you go like the other like independent stuff, and then accumulate at San Diego and like do like the super big one there. Like, you just rent out one of the buildings down the street and do it there.
Right. No, I mean, right now they're doing the 75th anniversary of Superman, and they're going around town to town. So maybe in 10 years we can have like 10 years remembrance of Pac Rim, but then have a bunch of other Pan's Labyrinth stuff there too.
Which are the only 2 movies people really know this poor bastard from. It's like, he also did Hellboy. Please, come on.
I know, I was mentioning that to people, and like no one, they were like, Hellboy. I was like, he did that. They were like, no, I know Ron Perlman was in it. I was like, no. I mean, yes, but no. And then so I was like, he did Blade 2. They go, oh no, we know Blade. He was part of it? I was like, what is wrong? I was like,
2 was better than Blade 1 in many ways. it was the superior film in the whole trilogy.
So I was like, yes. Yes, I was like, oh my god. But now he's becoming more of a household name, so at least people kind of know they associate him with giant robots and monsters now.
All right, so let's get back. Let's get back to brass tacks here.
Oh no, sorry, I was like cutting you off. But no, actually, the next thing they talked about in the focus points was a primer on kaijus and Jaegers, and it was basically a run through of the kaijus that they had. The interesting thing was they actually showed a lot of Jaegers that were not in the film.
Mm-hmm.
You know, kind of like Romeo Blue,
Horizon Brave, and like Yukon Brawler and all those guys.
Yes, and then they showed a lot of them that were kind of, and if you're not careful, you'll miss it. So, learn quickly to pause your screen, people. But that's what they kind of show. They kind of touched upon that because in the actual special features DVD, they go more into detail, which was covered in part 1 of our podcast. But next, they really did, what I really loved is it was titled The Intricacy of Robot Design.
Mm.
Actually, what they did was, and I wouldn't have thought of that, they actually built all of their robots inside out.
Oh, so they went from like internal working like skeleton all the way out to the armor.
Yes, because, like each part inside kind of fits to the specific pilot or the country that they're from, how it's built, everything. Like, I keep wanting to call it Echo Beijing because that was its original name, but like Crimson Typhoon, you need to have room for 3 people.
Yeah.
So, they built it inside out. They did all of that, and that's what I actually really liked because most people would think you either build it by parts, appendages, or you built it outside in.
Mm-hmm.
But no, they said that. And also they talked about if you looked real closely on their chests, which, we kind of touched upon briefly in part 1 of our podcast, was they wanted to simulate a lot of World War II, which we call it our generation or the world to end all wars or the greatest war of our generation. Because actually World War I was named the war to end all wars, and that was ironic.
About 30 years later, we're going to have another one of these even bigger.
Right. And like less than a couple of years later, they had another one. But a lot of it had nose art. So obviously the Americans have the stereotypical sexy woman with the
the bomber girl, the Betty
girl.
Page, the pinup girl, if you will, the Betty Page.
Yes, and and for Striker Eureka, it was Sarge, their dog, the bulldog. I would say other countries were a little bit more classy than America's nose art. But like Japan had like a very Astro Boy looking thing going on there, and of course like China some sort of possibly dragon. I'm not so sure. We saw it briefly in the shot of the movie, and then of course they have the little tally marks for the kaiju that they killed, that they knocked out. But the moment I saw Americas, I was like, why are we the pervs? Like,
but that's just how we were. That's how we were in World War II. We were like classy and in your face. That's why the terrorists hate us now.
Because we allow our women to show some skin.
Yeah, exactly. It's like we're not wrapping all that up. It's like we're not into hot elbow action. We want some legs.
And then from there, with the robots, the next focus point was the importance of mass and scale, which Del Toro was talking about. What was really important is because you're watching a movie on such a grand, beautiful screen of your IMAX Loco theater, because sometimes he says that he notices the issue with movies is you can't quite tell how big something really is. Like, you can kind of tell in certain shots, but then you can't really tell because it's either too up close or too far away, and there's some weird inconsistencies. So he was like, no, I want to make it so you knew exactly what size and scale you were working on. Like, it's this big and this tall. And what I really liked was 2 of the things that he did was, for one, the part where they were fighting, and it goes through an office building, and you see the little.
It's one of my favorite scenes too. When Otachi's shoving shoving Gypsy through that office building.
Yes, and then you see the little balls that do the balance, the gravitational force kind of go knock knock. All of that was a miniature office.
Yes. That shocked the hell out of me too. I'm like, that was awesome.
Yes, it's a miniature office, and what I loved was, as you guys know, if not through my voice, I'm a girl. I
Shocking.
do as much as I love my kaijus and everything, robots, Batman, Dark Horse. I still love doll houses. So when I have several of them, and
Mhm.
so when I saw it, it was like a mini dollhouse. And what was really funny was seeing grown men crawl up inside of this office, like putting little staplers and like little stacks of paper, and they're putting in like little lights in the office.
In
Like I thought that was so cute and
It
funny.
is, and in many ways, it is leading itself to honoring the many kaiju films that came before it as well. Because if you are obviously if you're listening to this, you know about it. But if you have discovered Pacific Rim and are just now getting into the genre, yes, mostly everything was done in miniatures. And what people don't, I mean, a lot of people who poo-poo the old like Japanese films, they're like, oh, it's just a guy in a suit and miniatures. It's like, well, A, back then, how the hell do you think they were doing set effects? They didn't have computers then. And B, the craftsmanship that goes into such a thing. I mean, you literally have to build a tiny office, and you have to make it look like when you take a picture, hey, that looks like a real office. So you have to hand detail the crap out of everything so it looks perfect, so that way you can destroy it an hour later.
Yes, and that's what. And the thing is, then they showed it obviously without the CGI.
Hmm.
The office being destroyed. It goes through the camera, goes through and rips back out. They basically only had one take.
Yeah.
Just go in, you rip it out. It goes forward. The arm and the camera goes forward and then goes back.
Oh yeah.
Just yeah, and that was it. And I was like, man, that's a lot of detail for 3 seconds.
Oh yeah, that's always one of the big that's always one of the stories like when the suit actors talk in like Godzilla films talk about. They're like they're very specific, like certain shots you have to get it on the first take because if you screw up, I think King Kong versus Godzilla had this problem when they're fighting at the castle at the end and they're just tearing it apart. I believe Nakajima missed his mark and he fell into the castle, knocking half of it over. So they had to stop for half a day while the model builders rebuilt the whole thing. You know, all the damage that
Oh
they did,
my, yeah.
and then they lost half a day of filming, and then they had to go and reshoot that scene, and then they had to fix the problem where Nakajima fell and everything like that. So that is a huge issue with these films, and everything has to be laid out just perfectly when you're working with miniatures. That's why when CG came around and it's just like, oh, we could just do this. Yeah, you can. It's easier. You're building it inside of a computer, but there's still a realness with the miniatures that you lose that when you just do everything in CG. So
Right, right.
I'm hoping that when people see that, they appreciate that art form a little bit better.
Yes, yes, and I thought that was amazing because I never would have thought,
Hmm.
and a lot of my friends would have done. And in many ways, people see that claymation, puppetry, all that as like a kind of quote unquote dying art form,
Yeah.
like a dying, because everything can be done in CGI. And so I really almost everything, but I really liked that touch, and I thought it was hilarious. And the next thing is you were talking about the amazing attention to details, like the mini staplers and papers,
Hmm.
only to be destroyed an hour later.
Hmm.
But when Striker, I'm sorry, not Striker Eureka, when Gypsy Danger is picking up the shipping containers and using them as like brass knuckles,
Yes.
they were actually showing one of the people who worked on the film with him was like Del Toro thought about details,
Hmm.
and he also thought about how these shipping containers are not empty.
Yeah, they're
So
full of
when he's
stuff.
fresh, they're full of stuff.
Hmm.
So he says like, wouldn't it be great to like have TV sets and like couches and sofas and everything just kind of fall out of it?
Yeah.
And then he was like, I decided to fill it up with IKEA furniture. So I was like, oh, okay. So when I went back, and I actually had a friend from college visit me recently and haven't seen the movie, and we saw it together, and I paid extra detail, and I froze it. Later on, my friend was like, oh, I think I have that exact same table from IKEA. And it was like a surreal moment
Yeah.
because you see actual things fall out.
I know it's yeah that I've that scene that particular stood out to me because it's when you're watching that movie the scene goes by so fast that you're not paying attention. You're just seeing like the debris fall off and you don't really notice what's coming down because it's like, oh, he just smashed the 2 shipping containers into the head of a giant monster and it just roars back and continue on. But when they slowed it down, they're like, yeah, so there's IKEA furniture. They put in a Vespa at one point. It's falling out. Yeah, it's just it was that attention to detail. There was I think it was in that same feature when they talk about the detail in the monsters too. Like there were scenes like the moment where Leatherback is circling Stryker, and the Handsome boys get out, and they're about ready to fire the flare guns at Leatherback, and they get that shot of them standing on Stryker, and you see the back, ironically, the back of Leatherback. They drew the skin parasites running around on him. Like you can actually see, you can actually see the parasites walking around on top of the kaijus. I'm like, that I would never. I saw it on IMAX and I didn't even see that. I'm like, that is fucking brilliant, because otherwise it's like, why point out these these littler things later on?
Right. Like you call them handsome boys.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, oh, okay.
The Hansons.
Oh, the Hansons. I
Yes.
thought you called them the handsome boys, because that also
slur
worked.
my speech a bit.
It's okay.
That's what I do.
But no, it is true, and there's so much detail. Like the flare hits one in the eye, but
It's got 9 eyes though.
yeah, it does. But now that I see it, I was like, oh, IKEA furniture is now known as kaiju furniture. And the next thing they talked about was the Shatter Dome Ranger roll call. Was the name of the next focus point, and they went into some small detail about Riley and like the different things about each ranger. And then there's a scene where Mako's sitting in her room, and you freeze it. If you actually look to the right side, I guess because we're used to seeing her with a certain tough exterior, we forget that deep down inside, she's a Japanese girl living in an awesome time. There's all these cute stuff. There's like these like little like chibi dolls and like manga, and they had like to the other side of the wall is like pictures and all this like badass stuff that she deals with, and then to the right is like a little like lucky cat. Like it was so cute, and I was like, oh, and you forget to like the other like the to more humanize the character, I guess I would say.
Yes.
And so I don't know why. I mean, that shouldn't surprise me, but it did, and I was like, that is such a detail that they were like, no, you can't just put like swords and everything and all this stuff in her clothes. Like, it's a very military post-apocalyptic, or post-apocalyptic kind of war zone they're living in. I mean, it's not a very comfortable looking room, but in the background is all this, like, I guess, things that made her think of home. And so I just thought that was really cute. And I was like, actually, some of the stuff I wanted that were in her room, I was like, I want that if I ever go to Japan. But, they put a lot more detail. Because, as you saw in Charlie Hunnam's room, Riley's room, is pictures of him and his brother.
Yeah.
So, and for her, I guess it's little Hello Kitty kawaii cute stuff.
Yes.
But they did that. And then after that, the next focus point was Jaeger's Echo the Human Grace, which is kind of how the Jaegers move in the way that's obviously simulated, but similar to the personality of the pilots.
Yeah.
So when the Beckett brothers were in it, it was a lot more, the way it moved was a lot more, I wouldn't say boyish, but, the way they scrap.
Yeah.
But then as soon as Mako comes in, it's a subtle thing, but they start to move a little bit more gracefully. Like, because Mako is a much more agile and graceful person.
Oh, yeah, like the stance it takes when they drop Gypsy in during the Battle of Hong Kong for the first time, and then that the kickboxer, I don't want to say it's a southpaw stance, but it's just it's almost like a kickboxing stance without the leg up, just with the fist at the ready. It's a lot different than what when you see in the beginning. It's the Beckett boys pretty much are brawlers. That's all. It's just like straight up boxing and just throwing a punch and throwing maybe an elbow here or there. But yeah, there's a difference.
Right.
It's also like when I point out, people don't realize that the con pod for Gypsy when the Beckett's had it, and then the con pod for Gypsy when Riley and Mako take over are two completely different things. Like, you don't even notice, like, the gyros and stuff are gone. They're missing from the background. There's an actual, I think when the Becketts were running it, there was no front, like, command, like, post right there. There's they could input different little things that they could do.
Right, right. And then they actually showed a screenshot which was not in the movie,
Mm-hmm.
and it was not in the deleted scenes, but it's Idris Elba in his room, Pentecost, and he takes off his shirt,
Mm-hmm.
and you can see he has his scars on him,
Yeah.
but they were in the same pattern like his pilot outfit.
So like Riley, like
Like
Riley's,
Riley,
like
yes.
on his arm, which
Right.
again, so many people didn't even notice that. I'm like, just watch the scene where they're bow staff fighting. You could see like all the burns on his arm. They're like right there in the same formation as the suit.
Yes. Yes, and I thought that was so great that their scars are not just like scars, but actual like circuitry that's been burned into them because they are connected to their
Almost
Jaegers.
gives him like a tribal tattoo kind of look too.
Yes, it's weirdly Tronish also, which is another series I love, but very, yeah, like very Tron. And then after that is a set that I really loved. Part of the focus points was Inside the Drift. How they made the film sequence of the drift. And what they did was, all the characters wore blue. Like their faces were painted like a gray blue. Their hair was a gray blue. The umbrella was a gray blue because when you shoot it and then when it appears on screen, it's a grayish blue.
Yeah.
So they were all gray blue, and it was really cute because they showed young Mako with her parents. And then you can see like a little Mako, the girl, the little actress that plays her. She's super cute. She's like running around and she's wearing gray, blue, and all that. And I really loved it because Del Toro comes over and he like pats her on the head, and she just like smiles. And I thought that was super cute. But part of the drift is the older Rinko. It shows her building the sword that later goes on to Gypsy Danger. Yeah, Gypsy Danger. And it was a really, really fast scene, and it was part of the thing. And I can't imagine the number of hours they spent just to film drift sequences.
Well, what astonishes me is the fact that they didn't color time everything. Like normally, like someone, any other director would have just been like, okay, just put them like in black or something like that, and then we'll color. We'll time the color later on in post. It's like no, we're gonna do it in film, like in camera.
Yeah, yeah, and it's really interesting. They did that, and then they also talked about how the camera moves. They have one camera that moved 360 while another camera stood still or something like that, and we're just on the subject. So that's how you get that kind of interesting cinematography, that swirling effect when you're watching the drift sequence. See my wonderful film terminology, swirling sequence.
Yes.
But I really, really liked that. And then the next focus point after that was goth tech. They were showing how as much as the technology is, pretty futuristic, there's a gothic romanticism to it, which I didn't really associate much with. I oddly see it as more futuristic than I saw as goth tech,
Yeah,
but I didn't
I didn't-
really have that much notes on it.
Again, I didn't see that either. I know that Del Toro loves putting all the gothy undertones to everything, but yeah, it was more, if anything, it was more cyberpunk than anything else with a lot of the stuff.
Yeah, I thought that more too, but they were talking about the goth tech of it. And the next part I really loved is the title was Baby Kaiju Set Visit. And the baby kaiju that ends up, swallowing you, Hannibal Chow, they built that baby. Like, they built a mini version of the baby, then a big version, like the main version of the baby. Everyone would have thought it was a CGI, or at least the tongue was. No, the whole thing, little Otachi baby, was actually built, had the scales, had everything. Like, it was so detailed just for one kaiju, and it shows the process. I mean, obviously they sped it up, but in the special feature focus points, they showed up how they drew it, then they had to redraw it, then they 3D'd it, then they made a small version, then they made a large version, and it was like, I was like, oh my god, like, that must have taken months just to build, and that little kaiju was not even in most of the scenes.
Exactly.
He was, it was there for all of, like, what it was the purpose for.
Like it's like 4 or 5 sequences. Mostly there for Charlie Day to stand on and stab in the head with a giant needle.
Yes. Yes, and then they went in and they showed how they did the mama.
Hmm.
When Chow's people goes inside and of course, screaming, they end
Yeah.
up being taken out by the baby. All of that, it looked really awesome. I kind of wish I was there. What they did was they put all blue foam
Hmm.
and then they put a lot of, it looked like balloons. And then they put, they filled up these glowing balloons. Then they put a cloth over it and they lit it from underneath. So these people were basically walking on like fluffy marshmallow clouds. That's how in the movie it looked like it had buoyancy. I mean, obviously there was post effect,
Hmm.
or else it just looks like they're walking on water balloons.
Yeah.
But it was glowing and luminescent, and I thought that was really cool how they did it. I was like, that is a future birthday party, nighttime birthday party event that I'm gonna have to think about.
Oh yeah, that reminds that it's like there's a hold on, I lost my train of thought. Did Chris talking take two? Okay, yeah, there's a business out here in Southern California called Sky High Sports, and it's a giant trampoline world. You go into this warehouse,
Yes.
and it's
Yes.
all trampoline. They have the big trampoline room, they have the trampoline foam room, they have the trampoline dodgeball room, and yes, it was akin to that. Like, and if you have not been there, kind of bone up on, if you will, on your trampolineness if you have not been on a trampoline since you were a child, because you will throw your back out the first time you get back in there. B, it is a hell of a workout, and C, the most hardened, bitter individual will turn into a kid again at these places. Because there's something magical just about being able to jump in a giant room from, corner to corner.
Yes, actually, they have a lot of exercise classes, and they had testimonials from men and women who've lost weight
Oh yeah, no,
doing that,
I sweat like Roger Ebert coming out of there. Like it, I'm just drenched after like an hour of doing that. It's somewhat pathetic, but it's also pretty good because I kind of feel it's like, oh good, I actually got some exercise tonight. So, but it is fun as hell though. I would recommend it for anybody.
Yes, and that and among glowing sticks and my Otachi idea, I'm gonna have to put together for my birthday next year.
Hmm.
So I was like, oh no, that would be fun. But it was really interesting how they did it backstage,
Hmm.
quote unquote, behind the cameras. Because I just assumed they were walking on green screen again with some weird foamy hill.
Hmm.
But they really put a lot of work into it.
Well, again, it's like Del Toro said. It's like we could have built the con pods, just had like the harnesses and that was it, and have them react to it. But it's like, no, you're not getting the performance you want out of the people, because if you have them actually in something and you're tossing them around, you get a better performance on them, because now they're not putting that much effort into imagining what's there. Then they know what's actually there. Then they can focus more on the performance. It's the same thing with this. It's like, okay, you're walking on top of a kaiju brain, and you're literally, it's literally just all like you're walking on Nerf pretty much, but it's squishy and it smells. Okay, let's go from there.
Yes. Yes, and then so that was the Baby Kaiju set visit. The other one they went to was the Tokyo Alley set visit,
Hmm.
which is, the entire scene where little Mako's running down, she's crying.
Oh,
and
that was
all
awesome. That was
That
fantastic.
one was really good.
Because they rigged the shit out of that set. Like they got that fucking great performance out of that little girl, and half it was because they had everything that Onibaba, when it throws its claw down, it's trying to get little Mako, and it drags across the pavement. All the damage it does was practical. It was
Yes, same thing with the trash cans, the huge
the
dumpsters
dumpsters
that
fold
flat.
in. I think the ground, everything was rigged to bounce with Onibaba's movement. It was fucking amazing.
Yes, it was really good, and I mean that really impressed me. But also, what impressed me is working with child actors.
Mm-hmm.
I've always wondered what they're like,
Mm-hmm.
and you got to see the interaction between Del Toro and Little Mako. They had a lady there who was obviously the translator, so you always see Del Toro talk to the lady, and then the little girl's like, like nodding her head, and then she talks to the little girl, and the little girl's like, yes. And it's weird that she just turns it on. She's crying and screaming. And then she just, like, when yells cut, she turns it right off. She's a very, 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 I would say, attentive. Like, she really listens, and she's, like, serious. and she's like nodding her head like, yes, I get it. Like she's little,
Yeah.
but she has like the understanding of a 35-year-old actress. And she's like, yes, yes. And then like you see her like nodding like she gets it, you know? And then of course, I assume maybe because he has children of his own, but Del Toro gives her a little fist, like a little fist bump. Like he like reaches out with her fist and she just looks at him and then she like gingerly puts out her little fist and gives him a fist bump. But it was super cute. But she was like, yeah, like for a moment you forget she's a child because she's totally like listening to this translator while watching the director. And she has a great performance not only because she's, you know, a good actress, but I think she follows directions really well. And one of the main frustrations of working with children is they're either hyperactive, they're not listening, or they don't want to act. Or they're like, no, I've been crying for 10 minutes. I don't want to do it anymore. Then you have to like kind of goad them with candy. But like she really seems like she was into it. She was doing her job. And so I thought that was super cute. But yes, of course, you know, my friend makes a comment of like, of course, Asians always work hard.
Exactly.
Like they take their stuff seriously. But no, she was super cute, and I hope she has like a great career ahead of her. If not, I hope she does something that she loves. I would love to see the audition tape process or how they picked her compared to
that would
girls.
be interesting. Yeah, I know.
So I always thought that would be great. And one of the last things on the focus points, which I was surprised it was one of the last things, I kind of wish they really went to a deep, really extensive view, it was called Orchestral Sounds, where they talk about the music of Pacific Rim. And I'm someone who's very big into soundtracks. So one of the first things I did notice about the film was the soundtrack, was the music. And the wonderful composer, and I'm sorry, I might screw up his name, but I actually kind of looked it up on how to say. On IMDb, it kind of gives you like a pronunciation of how to say his name, but it's like Ramin Javadi, but it's spelled Ramin Djawadi. He's also the same man who does Game of Thrones and Iron Man 3, among anything else that's epic. This man pretty much did it.
Yeah.
And watching him, you see he said that Del Toro was very involved. He was not someone that was like, hey, here's an email. I kind of want it to sound like this. I'll call you in 5 days. This dude went to his house, like described to him what he wanted. Like he showed him the monsters. And of course, being a brilliant composer, he goes, I knew exactly what I was going to do. But what you notice in the films, especially with the kaiju, is that it's very brass heavy. Brass instruments are very heavy. And he did different themes for different categories. Like Mako's theme was very soft. He kind of said originally Riley's theme was just going to be his, but it kind of turned into Gypsy's theme that kind of turned into a fight theme. But it was really good. But yeah, it was very brass heavy. I don't know if that's something that you noticed also.
No, that's it. I picked that up the second the movie started with the when after they get past the guitar riff to the dun dun dun, that when they got into the hero theme, if you will, when they get to that just, it's like, okay, that is the perfect tone for what these movies are. Because if you listen to like old Akira Ikufube themes, he was super heavy into brass. Like brass, I think and I might be misquoting something I read a long time ago, but I think he always says, like, these are big, lumbering monsters. You want to give them some weight, and brass, the brass instruments, like, the horns and stuff, give them that weight when they're, they're marching on. So that goes hand in hand with, giant monster movies. So, I mean, you could have easily added just a full, like, rock score to it, and it would have kind of worked for it, but the balance of the brass and the rock music worked perfectly for it, because not only did the rock kind of work for the Jaegers, the brass gave you the sound for the kaiju.
Yes, and for those who are less music savvy, that's okay. Brass is basically trumpets, trombone, French horn, tuba, things that look like that. Then woodwinds are like flutes and clarinets, because those. So, but what he meant was brass was those type of instruments. And what was interesting, he actually said that he recorded all the brass strings like violins, cellos, violas, and percussion first. Percussions, drums, everything that,
Yeah,
the poor people that,
yeah,
yes, the poor people that sit in the back of a
yeah.
band. So those people, he recorded the percussion, strings, and brass first. Then he says last, then he added everything else, including the solo, then the choir, which I thought I really liked because some people, much like Phantom of the Opera or certain other musics, usually the whole orchestra records together at once. Or they would do a majority at once, then they would do, the guitar solo or the piano solo. But he did pretty much almost everything separately and then combined it together because I guess, different themes, different categories, it can't all be done at once with one orchestra.
No.
So I thought that was really interesting, like a little tidbit and a fact. But basically, and then that was it. They didn't really go, I kind of wish they went more into detail with the soundtrack and especially with the composer's history because the iconic musics is like everyone knows the Game of Thrones theme now.
Oh, yeah.
You hear it, you want to scream that winter is coming. You listen to Iron Man,
Yeah.
you know that Tony will be coming. So and I think he's a great, if not already, up and coming composer.
He could be the next. He could be the guy in like 10 years that has replaced Hans Zimmer and
Danny Elfman.
Danny Elfman. When these guys are on their way out, and him and Michael Giacchino are kind of like ruling with an iron fist.
I know. He's like, John Williams, you're about to go in 20 years.
Yeah.
So
20 years. God, I'll be surprised John Williams makes it past the next 5.
Oh my goodness.
And nothing against poor John Williams. Look, I love John Williams, but the man's getting up there in age. And
yes.
He's going to be one of those guys that works till the day he dies, but let's be honest, he's getting up there. He's getting a little old, so.
Yeah, but no, this guy's great. He's 39. Does not, if you look at the focus point, does not look 39.
No.
He looks like he's 28 or 29. But he is going to be young forever.
Yes.
But he's a great composer. And one of the things I do actually really like is a Pacific Rim soundtrack. And now, because of the economy or whatnot, people are less inclined to buy certain things. But I did have friends who are just like, you know what? I think I will actually buy or get the Pacific Rim soundtrack.
It's an awesome soundtrack.
Because it's actually that good.
Yes. The last soundtrack I actually bought of any value like that was the Tron Legacy soundtrack.
Right.
I did get the Scott Pilgrim soundtrack, but that wasn't like the score.
Well,
that was just like the nice. It was a nice compilation CD, if anything.
Yes. Yeah. So I was like.
Oh, on a side note, John Williams is 81 years old.
I was gonna say, how old is he?
He was born on February 8th of 1932. So yes, he's getting up there with age. It will be a sad day when he eventually passes. Hopefully, it is still many years off, but. Let's be a little realistic. He might not be doing what he's doing for much longer.
Yes, so I hope he's around to get to witness all the Star Wars things that he can witness, regardless of his involvement.
Would that be something just like, goddamn Star Wars? Everyone talks about that. Goddamn Star Wars. He's like, look. He's like, well, what did you feel your greatest achievement in scoring was? He's like, Hook. That is where I achieved greatness. It was Hook, okay? And everybody overlooks Hook because they're all, E.T. or Jurassic Park or even Superman. It's like, fuck Superman. It's all about Hook, goddammit. That is where I created art, and nobody gave a freaking 2 winks at it.
Yeah, that would probably be an answer to one of the questions that I actually, whenever I do interviews, I love to ask is like, what do you think your greatest underrated thing that you did, performance, story, comic, whatever that you wish people knew more about? And I bet he would be like Hook.
It's like Hook, man. It's just something about that movie.
Yeah.
It's like Robin Williams took me aside when they say, look, I put myself out there on this. I really think I got an Oscar out of this film, but I really need you to step up your game to make this movie great. And mind you, I love Hook. Hook was like the Peter Pan movie for me growing up, so I vehemently defend Hook against anybody that hates it. But yeah, I would assume it's like he's just clutching like a glass of wine, just like fucking Star Wars, man. That's what I've always been known for, Star Wars. Everybody, I've done so many other great things, but no, Like, he's mumbling to himself. Like, he's just like, hey, John, Disney's gonna offer you, like, you know, a small island out in the Virgin Islands, and not one of the bad ones, one of the good ones, if you come back and score Star Wars again. And he's just looking, it's like, it's like, I'm selling out once again. But yes, let's do it.
Right. But I was like, oh my goodness. No, I mean, to go back, I kind of wish they had more on the music. Or, like, I'm not talking like 10-minute featurette, but at least, you know, a couple
Yeah,
minutes.
they do kind of get the soundtrack like a quick brushing over. It's just like, yeah, here we did this. Okay, let's move on.
Yeah. Yeah, so, but you know, that was it for all the focus points. We actually, you know, we covered everything.
I didn't find any Easter eggs whatsoever. There might be some out there, God only knows, but as far as I can tell, nothing.
Nothing, no Easter eggs?
No, I didn't see any Easter eggs whatsoever. But then again, it's a weird world we live in now with DVDs, because back in the early 2000s when DVDs started coming out and special editions were like a real big thing. Like most DVDs that came out were like loaded with extras, and then they slowly start getting lazier and lazier, and like you know, bare bones became like the normal thing. Like Easter eggs back in those days were like huge. Like you scroll around on the menu looking for like hidden objects and stuff like that, or it's like trying to figure out like a video game, like putting in the cheat code like up down left right kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
For the life of me, I've not seen anything like that in like a good like 3 or 4 years. So.
Right, right. So anyone out there commenting and listening, if you did find Easter eggs, or you think you have a conspiracy theory of the Easter eggs, like
there's some guy back.
Definitely.
There's some guy listening right now in his car. He's like, "God damn it, there is one. You didn't look hard enough."
Yes, you know, they're like, there was a spike, upside, a triangle. We know it's Godzilla.
Yeah.
It's there. No, and then comment below, or like you know, message us, and we will respond with it.
We will respond with great enthusiasm.
Yes, yes, we will. But pretty much that's all my wonderful pages of notes for Pac Rim.
You've exhausted everything that you've written down now.
Yes, I was actually checking off all the little things I was talking about.
All right, so overall, actually a very good DVD. You know, especially what I was talking about, in a day and age where DVDs are being kind of pushed to the side for digital downloads, you still can't get all those wonderful special features that you know, if you bought it off iTunes and it's just sitting on your hard drive, it's still not the same. I love owning DVDs, Blu-rays, DVDs, either one. I like having the movie. And I like the fact that, you know, it doesn't matter. There's always going to be those extra special features there. Like, 10 years from now, I can pop this thing in, and it's just like, oh, yeah, so that's how they did it. You know, I'm pretty sure it'll be readily available on the internet, but, you know, how much can you really trust the internet? It does lie to you sometimes.
It does. It does lie to you, as it did for the 50th anniversary of Doctor Who. But, you know, I was like, oh, okay. But, no, I look forward to anything Pac Rim related, and also the DVD. I mean, if we had to score it, out of 10 kaijus,
it's a solid 8.5, 9. The transfer is beautiful. It's a lot of love went into it. It's just it felt like they double dipped on a couple of things, though. If you get my drift,
yes.
Not in that sense either.
But no, I would give it a 9.5. Where they killed a kaiju, but they didn't know that it survived.
Yes.
Like, they thought they killed it, so that's where the 0.5. Because I think there's a sore lacking of Travis Beacham.
There is a definite lacking of him.
Charlie Day, Idris Elba, and, you know, I mean, they have enough Del Toro. But also, I think it would be nice to have heard what Hermes had to say, the actor that played him, even the guy who operates the all the other side characters, like from Hercules to the guy with the bow tie. I forget his name, but you know, he does all the operations. And it would have been really interesting to hear what Rinko had to say, because she is pretty much the only female other than the Russian wife sister that was in the film.
I like that wife sister.
So, you know, it's ambiguous. You don't really know what's happening. But you know, they could have at least put a little bit more in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say 9.5. Definitely.
Well, I'm just hoping that this time next year, when we're sitting down around this time reviewing the Godzilla Blu-ray, that, you know, they put in they pack it even more condensed.
Right, right. I hope there's a lot more things. We would love to see more Bryan Cranston.
Everyone loves Bryan Cranston. You cannot hate that man.
Yes.
A lot of people don't know he did a couple of voices on Power Rangers too, like that. Like when Breaking Bad was ending a couple weeks ago, and they're like, "Hey, 10 things you didn't know about Bryan Cranston." It's like he was a voiceover artist and he worked on Power Rangers. I remember that kind of coming out, and people were like, "Are you fucking kidding me? He was on Power Rangers." I'm like, "That's like one of like the worst kept secrets in the world." Like he put that, like he talked about that before he even did Malcolm in the Middle. So he was a voice on Technoman too. If anybody my age remembers Technoman, it was the American dub of Tekkaman Blade. He was on like 3 episodes of that. And I popped on my DVD. I'm like, I gotta find this. And yes, therein lies Bryan Cranston.
Oh my! Bryan Cranston is hiddenly everywhere. He's our favorite Easter egg, who's just kind of
He just
around.
shows up. He just walks in and says, "Oh hey, what's going on?" And just walks away. It's like you just need to put a little Bryan Cranston in everything.
Sprinkle him
I
on.
love the fact that the dad from Malcolm in the Middle is now like one of the most like sought after and renowned actors out there in the world.
And scariest mofo.
It is.
Ever.
And he's like the nicest guy in the world too.
Yeah, he is very nice. But no, that's it. As I said for the notes, unless you have anything that you want to add for our lovely part 2 of our podcast for Pacific Rim.
That's about it. It's a solid DVD. I've watched it several times now. I've fallen asleep to it. I've hugged it. I don't own the deluxe box version, mostly because I don't buy those because they're just too damn awkward to display. My shelf space is limited, so I got everything has to slide in. I kind of like the uniformity of DVDs like that too, where I'm looking through like a fine library of books, but instead it's just like, okay, here's the Quest next to Saving Private Ryan, next to my copy of Airplane, and then oh hey look, it's the director's cut of Payback. People look at the fine taste in film that I have.
I was thinking because you were talking about limited shelf space.
Mm-hmm.
Now one of the many reasons why digital comic download is so big because you only have so much room to put your comics. If I could have one thing from Pacific Rim that does not exist yet,
Mm-hmm.
I would want a plush Onibaba. And I would sleep with that dude every night.
Cause a plush one would look so happy too. You just know he's gonna have like the squinty like little chibi eyes, and his claws gonna be up real happy like.
Oh, so you're making it more Japanese version. I was just going to make it like a little scary, like a plush Godzilla.
No, if you're going to go plush, you have to add like the super deformed chibi look to it, so...
I would like one not to scale, but to like a little version, complete with the scariness and the little mouth that opens. But Velcro style,
yeah.
So I can just like open its mouth. Yes, and for some... sad, violent reason, in his left claw will be a little Mako with a little shoe, and I would just sleep with it every night. But if you could have anything that was not made from the movie on your limited shelf space, what would it be?
God, I'm trying to think right off the bat. The one thing I want a Gypsy Danger bomber jacket.
Yeah, the brothers,
yes.
The Beckett brothers.
I want that. I would love a. I'm trying to think. Like, if anything that's not, like, made yet? I mean, jeez.
Like a Stacker Pentecost doll from, like, Tonner, and then, like, pull a little string, and he's like, cancel the apocalypse.
He says,
cancel the apocalypse.
It's like Pacific Rim action figures. They really work. It's like you get the human lines. It's like, it's Raleigh and Stacker Pentecost, and you pull a string in the back. It's like, I am a fixed point in this place. It's just... And you pull, like, the Raleigh, and he's just like, I miss my brother a lot, dude.
Yeah, and then, like, you pull on Pentecost, and, of course, he makes the apocalypse sound.
Yeah, he comes with, like, he has a button on the back with, like, karate chop action. Like, the hand just comes down and starts smacking the shit out of everything.
Yes, I thought that would be really awesome. And there's kind of a trigger point, so if you put the Riley doll's hand to his arm, it's like, do not touch me.
It actually comes, if the left arm has, like, eye-punching action, just beats the crap out of him.
Oh my goodness. But yeah, the bomber jacket would have been a good one. I've searched online for
I
it.
wouldn't doubt that you can make like a whole line based out of like the pilot's like look. Like you could do the Gypsy Danger bomber jackets. You can create like coats, like big Russian coats for Cherno Alpha, and you can make them kind of like in the color scheme of the Jaeger with like certain like elements to them, but also incorporate the pilot elements as well. I do think that people would eat that shit up with a huge spoon. It'd be just like pure sugar on top of Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Just like, yes, more.
Yes. Yes, and it would be awesome if you can put in like a DVD of your happy memories, but puts it into like a VR type
Yeah,
helmet, and
just comes over.
it automatically simulates into a drift.
Or like Google glasses.
Yes, and then you can get a drift sequence out of your own
That'd
memory.
be awesome. Now, you know what I would love if and look, I love Nika's figures. I've bought a lot of them. I almost have the whole line right now. I need a leatherback, and then I'm working on getting the giant, massive scale Gypsy one right now. It's just expensive. So, but I would love if like someone else, like if Nika had made like a more durable line, because Nika's figures are much like their other figures. They're great. They're posable. They're like heavy vinyl, and like you kind of feel like if you really kind of got down and dirty with them, you would break them real easy.
Right.
I would love like if like someone had like Toy Biz had made like a Pacific Rim action figure line where like they would have like chest firing action where Stryker's chest would open up and just missiles would shoot. Like those are the commercials. That's where I think they dropped the ball. It's like really marketing the crap out of this movie to kids. Where everyone's like, oh, it's a Guillermo del Toro movie. Older people are. I'm like, no. The whole idea was to. Ironically, it is kind of a family film if you think about it. It's a big blockbuster film. And missing that mark of not like having like just cross the board like action figures made out of it, like just a whole line of kaijus that maybe they're a little limited posability, but they got the look, and they had like light up sounds and like firing action. Like you could get like a leatherback, you press the back and his back lights up like and it makes a sound like the EMP pulse. And Gypsy has retractable blades that come in and out, and you can like fire them and stuff like that. That is, I think is what we're really missing. I would love more than anything else.
Yes. Yes, and you can obviously have the Mako doll where you press her and she says for my family.
Exactly. Like you can have like the line of the figures. Like you can create like you can make them to scale. Like you can make like big Jaegers and big kaiju that you could put like a 4.5-inch, like here I'm getting real detailed with, or 3.5-inch. I'm getting super detailed with my toys here, like the GI Joe size like figures. You could put them inside of the Jaegers, like they got a slot where they could put into. You could fight them and shit like that.
Yeah.
Now
Look
I'm
at you, you're making like
yeah. I'm like that'd be great, but sadly we don't live in that world. So yeah,
I know, right?
I blame Legendary on that fully.
Oh, you do?
Yes,
Okay.
it's like look, I appreciate like you could have given, because if you look at the news, because the Legendary put out a press release about a month and a half ago about what they're doing with the Godzilla license, and they're going full bore. They will come May or actually April when these figures start hitting. My wallet is going to be very, very empty, because much like when I was a young boy. Of 14 when the American Godzilla movie came out, not necessarily buying up all the American Godzilla stuff, but the tie-in stuff, like a bunch of other companies have purchased like the Godzilla license to make books and stuff like that. I bought all that shit, and I have stacks of it still sitting here. And I was like from April of like '98 to Christmas of like 2000, it was just Godzilla shit left and right. That was just picking up, because even after the initial move, when the American movie came out. And that stuff sat on the shelf for months, and then they would start clearancing it out, and I'd be like, okay, I'm going to take this and this, and yeah, I got it all. That is what Legendary's doing with Godzilla. So obviously they're like, okay, we feel like we had something more here with Godzilla. Not only is Nika making like high detailed figures, like they've done with Pacific Rim, Bandai's making more generalized figures, because Bandai does hold the license, but it's their creation line, so it's more specialty. Like Toys R Us and like comic stores are the only ones that really carry them. But they're gonna have like a massive like movie line general figures that you can buy like on store shelves, like in Target and stuff when it comes out. And they have licensed the crap out of Godzilla to a dozen companies, and they didn't do any of that with Pacific Rim.
Yeah, I think it's all about taking risks and everything for
Yeah.
them, you know.
Like
So,
I understand that, and I understand that it's like, hey, it's Godzilla. Everyone knows Godzilla, but you know, they really could have done. You know, it's another reason why certain cartoons don't stay on the air, because it was I was reading an interview about why Titan I'm sorry, Symbiotic Titan, the Gendy Tartakovsky show. It lasted one season. It was brilliant. Like, it was amazingly brilliant. And it falls into this genre, too. It was mech fighting monsters. It had, like, tones of Voltron meets, what is it? John Hughes movies, ironically. But the reason why the show didn't last was because no one had optioned the rights for toys. There was no toys to support the show.
right.
So it kind of fell into the wayside and got canceled, and now it sadly just reran. The same 20 episodes are rerun on Toonami every Saturday, and just depresses me even more. But if you have something out there and you kind of throw it out there, like preemptively, okay, the sales might not be strong at first, but when the movie comes out and kids have something they can go and play with, it's gonna drive sales even more, and it's gonna drive people to come back to the movie. Drive people like. The idea the idea is to market to kids, and then you market to adults. And if you do that, you have a better chance of getting a sequel, getting more stuff off the ground. There was, I mean, if you didn't go through like a collector's store or order online, it's nearly impossible to find these Pacific Rim figures. I'm just lucky that I live in Southern California, and I'm near enough like, secondary collector markets that I was able to get these things. Because
Right.
I never saw one in Toys R Us. I lived near like 8 Toys R Us's. None of them had them.
Right. No, I know what you mean, and that's another reason. Three of the things, 3 points I want. Like, that's exactly why Young Justice and Batman Beyond kind of went off air, because their stories are great. Everything is driving forth. Moments where it's a little too dark for kids,
Yeah.
but their toys were not selling as well.
No.
It's all about marketing, and also you market to children, because if you market to adults, we're not really going to buy things for ourselves either because of the economy, or we want to pay a bill. But if you market to children, they will bug their parents, who will have to buy it for them, so they will be happy and quiet or whatever. So you want to market to children
Exactly.
also.
Well, George and I, we run the Realmcast. We did an episode where we're talking about this because Greg Weisman, who ran Young Justice, talked about why the show didn't make it. It's like, hey, nobody bought the merchandise. And George and I kind of dissected that, and we're huge toy guys. That's part of the reason our friendship bonded was over toys. Like, we have everything from like old school Transformers to like high end Japanese stuff, like, and everything in the middle. But we're talking about that, and his kids were into Young Justice, and his youngest not so much because he's only 4 and it was a little over his head, but his oldest was like super into it. And as he pointed out the problem, and this was the same problem that the Avengers toy line had when the Avengers came out, a lack of bad guys. He's like, you have all the hero figures. You have a Robin, you have Aqualad, you had all those guys. Who the hell were they going to fight? I think they had a Cheshire and a Ra's al Ghul figure, and that was it. It's like, there was no one for them to fight. It's like, what are they going to fight each other? It's like, it's like the simplest thing, in that people who are paid hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to market this stuff completely overlooked it. For the fact of like, let's get the popular ones out and those will sell. It's like, well, no, you have to kind of think like a kid. It's like, they're going to be playing with these things. You have to create conflict, and you have to give them something to fight back. So even if it's just like creating, the Justice League Unlimited line, they have packs you could just buy parademons for. You can create like a Thanos, or a Darkseid army. So you can get Darkseid and Calibac and then like a bunch of parademons, and you can have the whole Justice League beat the crap out of them. It's like, that's what they did with that line. That's what they did not do with the Young Justice line. And sadly, it cost us a brilliant show.
Yes, and that's very true. But yeah, I mean, when it came to toys and everything, I hope that Pacific Rim can put out a little bit more, but it might be slightly late now
Well,
since
no,
the movie's out, the DVD's out, and
I do
everything.
know that Nika has announced that they're putting out a.
Right, but it's like series of
Oh
them.
yeah, no. There's enough. We're not going to see the mass produced lines in the stores ever. That dream's gone.
Yeah.
But Nika
Yes.
still. I think this toys sell very well for Nika. On the secondary market, I know that the first wave, like Gypsy, the regular Gypsy's going already for like $60 online, like on eBay.
Right.
And the second series is already starting to get up there. I do know that they announced that to go along with the 18-inch Gypsy, they're creating an 18-inch knife head, which they had the prototype at Comic-Con at their booth. And it's a huge, just solid piece of like sculpture, pretty much, that ironically has far more movement than the knife head figure that they released has. Like the little arms can actually move. But it's going to cost like $200 though. And they have a Wave 3 coming out, which they're kind of making it for the mistake that they made with Wave 2, I think, where they put out another Gypsy figure. It was battle damaged Gypsy, but this one had the swords that you could attach to the arms.
Right.
Which is like,
Right.
well, you have a million other Jaegers and Kaiju you can put out. Why would you release another Gypsy? So I think they listened to that, and we're getting a Trespasser, the first Kaiju in the movie.
Right.
We're getting that figure. And then there's going to be a Cherno figure, and the one I'm waiting for, and I can't wait to get this in my hands, is the Coyote Tango figure.
That would be awesome. Yep.
So, and that's Chris talking about toys.
It's okay. I love it. When you were like, George and I bonded over toys. I want to say, who doesn't?
Exactly.
Because I've bonded over some of my friends over my
Many
toys.
friendships were forged and destroyed over toys.
Destroyed.
Yes. I stopped hanging out with a buddy in elementary school because he lost the head to my Shogun Megazord.
Oh no.
Yeah, I'm just like, now I have a Shogun Megazord, no head, so what am I going to do with it? It's just sitting there, just staring at me. And I stopped talking to him. I was upset.
Oh
Yeah,
no.
I do not have said Megazord anymore. I still have my Pride and Joy one, my Ninja Megazord, though. I'm very happy with that.
That's
It's
good.
on my wall of robots right now.
Yes, there's many toys I've never thrown away, and I'm glad I didn't because I still have them in my collection now. So that and Pez containers, they are worth
Oh,
something.
yes. And believe me, when we do whole episodes sitting around looking, talking about figures, you're going to hear me just wax poetic about all this shit. So just stay tuned, hold on, if you will, because it's going to get interesting. That's me
Yes.
hyping.
And so I guess we're winding down to a sad close
That
for this
is it.
episode.
So I think I think we got the Pacific Rim out of our system for right now.
Yes.
Based on any information that comes out or anything new, or we managed to get to talk to anybody concerning anything about Pacific Rim, we'll obviously come back and revisit it. But sallying forth, where we're going to start focusing a little more on the Japanese side of things and start getting to the nitty gritty of Godzilla and his fellow kin. So
Yes.
stick around for that. Jessica, where can people find more of your delightful work?
Yes. You can find me on Facebook. It's just Jessica, the comic book girl. But also thecomicbookgirl.com and girlongeek.com are good places to find me. And then from there, you'll find me through our Twitter, Tumblr, Pinterest, everything where I am at specifically. So where can we find you?
I run a site called therealmcast.com. You can find me there. I run 2 podcasts on that. Take Two, which is a news, kind of like a weekly news recap, and the actual The Realmcast, the main shows we call it, where we wax poetic about things we love. And you can find more of my oddball writing stuff on Panzer Crush, which hosts the Kaiju Kingdom podcast along with our other sites. Jessica?
Yes, so we are actually on Tumblr, the Kaiju Kingdom Podcast.tumblr.com. We are on Twitter under the Kaiju Kingdom. And also we're also on Facebook, the Kaiju Kingdom Podcast. And you can find us and like us and be our friends, and we will stalk you as you stalk us back.
Exactly.
And also, If you want to directly email us, we are the Kaiju Kingdom Podcast at gmail.com. And you can ask us, tell us, complain, suggest certain things. I don't know, whatever you want, let us know. Please don't spam us.
Yeah,
or we will spam you right
exactly.
back.
I have links to things you don't even want.
Yes.
I will put you on so many mailing lists you'll never get out of it.
We will just send you pictures and clips of Godzilla with Matthew Broderick. Is what we will do. And basically that's it on where to find us.
Exactly. By this episode, we should be on, or hopefully we will be on iTunes. We will be on iTunes very soon. I've had actually some people ask about that. So I'm kind of working on that. iTunes is a bit of a hassle, and I'm not an iTunes user, so I'm kind of navigating waters I'm not familiar with. So we will be up fairly soon, though. When we do, I will post it on the Tumblr and on the Facebook as well.
Yay!
So that will do it for the Kaiju Kingdom podcast this week. Join us again when we talk more about giant monsters. So for myself, and
hi, Jessica again.
Yep.
Hello.
We will see you next time.